The statement from the spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry of Iran should not be taken as a firm rejection of the diplomatic process which is underway. And the Iranian authorities, the Iranian leadership, they have been collaborating with Pakistan in promoting peace and security. So I think that this is not the final word, but I think both sides are projecting brinkmanship because the United States also continues to impose its blockade on Iranian ports. And today the situation has worsened because the U.S. Military fleet not only fired upon an Iranian cargo ship, but boarded it, and now it has impounded it, and it is under the custody of the United States. So this is an act of war, or as Iran says, that this is an act of piracy. It has also objected that such actions and also the maritime blockade of Iranian ports is in fact in violation of the United Nations Charter, Article 2.4 to be precise, and UN General Assembly Resolution 3314, and it's Article 3C. So I think there we are. And but Pakistan, as a mediator, is trying to bridge the differences between the two sides, and it will continue to do so. Well, you would recall that President Trump, when he heard the news that Iran had decided to lift restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz, he was overjoyed. His reaction was exuberant in one tweet, but following that, in one of his Truth Social posts. But in the subsequent post, he said that the blockade would continue. And I think that this emerged as a huge irritant because I'm not privy to the behind the scenes negotiations, but what I understand is that it was Tehran's expectation that the United States reciprocally would end the blockade, but it did not happen. And then in several tweets later on, the United States president started using a mix of positive messages to the international community, to his own citizens, to the Iranians. But at the same time, he also issued the familiar threats, destroying their power plants and destroying their bridges and so on and so on, the kind of maximalist and extremist language that he has used before. So this must have fueled Iranian suspicions about the credibility of the United States participation in the diplomatic process. Well, the doubts were already there, and they have said it publicly, whether it was President Pezeshkian or the speaker, who are considered to be moderate and moving towards the negotiating table all the time. They have said that there's little credibility of the United States actions and also its pronouncements. So I can understand why they are cautious, but I hope that they would not scuttle the entire mediatory process, because nobody wants this war, neither the Iranians, nor the United States, nor the international community, nor the Gulf states. So I think Pakistan's mission is a noble mission, and it has earned the trust of the entire international community to spearhead this process. And I hope that Pakistan will succeed in bringing these interlocutors back to Islamabad for the next round of talks. Pakistan's task as a mediator has become much more difficult and complex. The good news is that it has access both to Iran and to the United States of America, contrary to what is being speculated in some sections of the media. Pakistan still enjoys deep trust in Tehran, and because Field Marshal Asim Munir, CDS of Pakistan, was there recently, and he's talked to all power centers, the leadership, the president, the speaker, also the commanders of the Pasdaran Inqilab. So he's had in-depth negotiations there. And of course, Field Marshal Asim Munir has direct access to President Trump. So I think these are good coordinates for Pakistan to pursue this process. But at the same time, I would say that the situation on the ground is changing very fast. And this impounding of the Iranian vessel, which is, we're told that it is 900 feet long. And it was not inside the Strait of Hormuz, it was outside in the Gulf of Oman, and it was headed towards the Bandar Abbas port. So this has complicated the situation for Pakistan, but Pakistan has been resolute and consistent in its quest for peace. And I think that we should continue to repose trust in Pakistan. I mean, by we, I mean the international community, but most importantly, Tehran and Washington, because they are the ultimate deliverers of peace. They have to come to a negotiating table, and they have to agree to some diplomatic midpoint. Well, I can't forecast the results of this kind of non-engagement. It takes two to tango, and one cannot negotiate with oneself. I mean, if the United States has prior information that Iran is not sending a delegation to Islamabad and they show up here, I would see it as part of psychological warfare and also putting extra pressure on the Iranians. But I think that these talks would be meaningless because one good aspect would be that while these negotiators, not the Vice President J.D. Vance, but if Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff are here, they can at least get a sense, first-hand sense of what our Field Marshal Asim Munir has gathered in Tehran, or what the outcome of the consultations of our Prime Minister with regional countries, particularly Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey was. So that could be a redeeming feature, but these would be incomplete talks. And I mean, gathering from what these two envoys of President Trump would say, Islamabad could communicate to Tehran if they are absent, what their bottom line is. But in any case, it is widely known that Iranian negotiators, the foreign minister of Iran, they do not trust Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff because, according to the Omani foreign minister, they were close to an agreement last time on February the 26th in Geneva. And yet, on the advice of these two negotiators, the President of the United States and Israel decided to go ahead with attacks, and they discarded diplomacy at that point. So I think there's deep mistrust, but Pakistan, in good faith, would continue to strive to bring these parties closer to each other. Both sides have to show flexibility, but it's not for us to decide what is the middle ground, what is the midpoint, because only the Iranians and the United States can decide what they want, where they are comfortable with, not only vis-a-vis each other, but vis-a-vis their own domestic constituencies, because both are vulnerable. I mean, President Trump is answerable to his mega constituency, Republican Party, because he did not take U.S. Congress into confidence, and he said that these were operations. This was not a war that he had started, because if it was a war, he would have taken endorsement of the U.S. Congress. And there's this huge reaction against this war amongst the citizens of the United States of America. In Tehran, of course, I mean, there are many power centers, and there are this new generation of leaders, and they are more hardline, and they are not ready to make compromise. I mean, in the beginning, you must have seen that it was only Abbas Araghchi or the foreign ministry spokesman who used to issue statements. But now we are hearing from multiple quarters, from the speaker, from the National Security Council, from the president, from Pasdaran Inqilab regularly. So I think they have a big task on their head, and the leadership of Iran, to muster support of all the stakeholders. But neither side wants war. So you specifically referred to the nuclear issue. And if they were, I'm talking hypothetically, if they were to show flexibility, I think that the United States should allow Iran to safeguard its right to enrich uranium within the confines and framework of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. They can enrich uranium up to 4%, 3.6 to 4%, and take it to 20%. I mean, if it is a transparent increase in enrichment. So this is one thing, because Iran says that it has the right to enrich uranium, being a party to the NPT. The second area is that, I mean, the indefinite restriction on Iran not to enrich uranium. And I think that this would not be acceptable to Iran. It could be subject to the agreement between the two parties, but 10 to 15%. If there is this moratorium, then this would be a mutual agreement between the two states. But associated with this is Iran's expectation of a huge quid pro quo. Would all the primary and secondary sanctions be removed? This is one thing. And their frozen assets be released, because this is important for them. They have demanded reparations for war damages from the United States of America. And in all likelihood, the United States would not pay a penny to the Iranians. But if these tens of billions of Iranian assets are released, Iran could use that money for reconstruction and to rebuild the devastated economy after 21,000 attacks, combined attacks of the United States and Israel. Pakistan is the lead mediator, but behind Pakistan is the consensus generated by Pakistan by consultations, extensive consultations with Egypt, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia, which means all the Gulf countries are on board. And China and Pakistan signed or released 5-point communique about dialogue, diplomacy, also free navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. So China is on board 100%. It's not just behind the scenes, it has come to the fore to promote diplomacy. And then you have Pakistan has the support of the Russian Federation, the European Union, also Canada, Australia, European Union. In fact, they issued a joint statement commending Pakistan's role. And so I think that Pakistan is not just a lone operator. It's not a solo flight for Pakistan. It has, first, it mustered support of all the important players in the international community. And then it started making these efforts that led to the ceasefire, first round of talks. And now it is working relentlessly towards holding of the second round of talks. So I think that here the world is watching. They know that the United States is hobbled because of President Trump's rejection of that institution. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation is not playing any role. And you have then the Arab League, they are also inactive. European Union is not playing any part. And you see, this is for the first time that these talks of this importance are not taking place in any European capital, Geneva, for instance, or even in Doha or Oman. They are taking place in Islamabad, and Islamabad has now become an international capital because of the first round of talks. So I would say that yes, I mean it's not just Pakistan. It is this. It enjoys the support of the entire international community, all the power centers, power nodes of the international community. It is unrealistic to expect that a decades-old division would be bridged within a day or so. But I think that because of the urgency of the war and because of the fast receding deadline for the ceasefire, we should have some semblance of agreement between the two sides so that there is no resumption of hostilities. As far as Pakistan is concerned, it will continue its efforts, but it's not up to Pakistan, as a matter of fact. Pakistan can give the negotiating table, it can convey messages faithfully, and it can also suggest modus vivendi, which means that the median point that I have been talking about. But it would be up to the interlocutors to agree to those points so that they can de-escalate and then they can start a process. I would say, I'll list two or three things which can be resolved initially if the two warring nations decide to do so. One is, of course, this blockade of Iranian ports and this restrictions on the Strait of Hormuz. Then there's some broad understanding about the situation in Lebanon, because as you know that in Lebanon, Israel has occupied territory up to the Litani River and beyond. And it has also drawn a yellow line following its practice in the Gaza territory, because there they have a blue line, and it continues to occupy 54% of the territory. And here it has up to 40 kilometers, it has occupied territory, which is now under the control of 5 divisions of the Israeli army and the naval forces. So it's now a new occupied territory and a new colony of Israel. So that should be resolved, although the United States has put pressure on Israel, but Israel doesn't yield to such pressures very easily. And then some initial understanding about the nuclear program, and then they can continue with their talks. And so basically, there should be an agreement to an end to the war, a ceasefire, make this ceasefire permanent. Iranians have asked for something else also. They have said that they want assurances or guarantees that Israel and the United States will not attack again, will not attack Iran again. But I think that kind of guarantee can be given by China, Russian Federation, European Union, and the United States, and by the United Nations Security Council. So I think our 5-point communique with China alludes to that all this process should end up with the United Nations system, and particularly with the United Nations Security Council.